LeBron James woke up today and chose violence. Today we have a few interesting things from him on Twitter that we're going to cover today. I hope you guys enjoy. If you're new, make sure you subscribe to the Basketball Bulletin. We are approaching 5,000 subs and we want to get there before the start of the season and we need your help. Post down below what you guys think about these comments. So anyway, earlier today, over in Abu Dhabi, actually, excuse me, this was yesterday, over in Abu Dhabi, the Celtics announcers had some interesting things to say about LeBron. Let's go ahead and give a listen to it.
But I'll tell you what, I am rooting for him to make like 9 threes against the Lakers because he got a lot of heat for that. That was a disastrous team, and he got all the heat for that whole thing. Right. So I'm kind of hoping that he can make a bunch of threes against that team.
You're telling me one of LeBron's teammates became a scapegoat out of nowhere? What?
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
I know, it's crazy, right?
Now, that basically... The context of this is that Russ played his first game for the Nuggets, as you guys can see in the clip, and he actually played really good. Definitely had some ups and downs, but that's what you would expect with Russ, so shout out to him. That being said, it's definitely really interesting. There's a lot of animosity there. LeBron has a history with the Celtics from his Cavs and Heat days. Also has a history with them as a Laker because the Lakers and Celtics rivalries have always been a tremendous, tremendous thing. So there's definitely no ulterior motive to saying that. And it's interesting because you can, and there always has been the talking point about how LeBron's teammates become scapegoats when his teams have X, Y, or Z happen. The coach, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's never LeBron, and that's the talking point that a lot of people have. But I thought this was very interesting because I briefly remembered LeBron never really said much about this in particular. But I thought this one was interesting because I remember LeBron never really said much about Russ. I know that LeBron sometimes does this thing where he's like passive, or he'll say something where there's a meaning behind the meaning. And it's interesting to me the way that he's perceived online because he's funny because sometimes I think he gets more credit for being a manipulative mastermind than he probably is. Not saying he's innocent or not doing these things, but he's at a point where people think that he can't say anything at all without an ulterior motive. And that's actually pretty impressive if you ask me. I also came across this quote tweet here from High Note where he says there's real footage of LeBron, or Russell Westbrook, excuse me, playing the worst basketball we've ever seen while on a team with LeBron, and he refused to talk bad about Russ. The media and fans do all the slandering and scapegoating, then LeBron gets blamed for it. Y'all are crappy people. And that is one that I thought was pretty interesting. I wound up liking it because he did reply with the quotes. So let's see what he said here.
You guys can write about Russ and all the things you guys want to try to talk about Russ, but I'm not up here to do that. I won't do it. I've said it over and over. That is not it's not who I am. So,
one thing about Russ that I love and will always love is, just his competitive spirit, what he brings to the game every single night. And when you're in a profession where so many injuries happen and so many things go on, and to have a guy that's reliable and can put on a uniform every single night, that's something I respect out of everything. And I'm not going to sit here and make decisions for the front office and things of that nature. But
I think with LeBron, it's a little bit interesting because I think that High Note does hit it on the head. LeBron isn't really the one out there, scapegoating people or anything like that. It's a lot of times the media or fans or people coping for LeBron or caping for LeBron, whatever you want to say, where they're defending him. And it is what it is in terms of that. I have no gripes with that. But the interesting thing about this that I do want to call a spade, he'll say this and I'm sure he believes it. But at the same time, we know that behind the scenes, he's probably at this time pushing for a trade, things like that. And it is what it is. And on the Russ thing specifically, he did go on there on national TV and say, oh, I would love Kyrie, things like that. And I think both things can be true at the same time. I think you could love playing with Russ. I think you could love him as a teammate, as a person, but probably realized that they weren't going anywhere that year, which was obviously the case. So it's kind of weird talking about a both sides of your mouth thing, but it is what it is. Anyway, let's talk about the next topic. Let me know how you guys feel about that stuff that I talked about there. But let's talk about the next topic where LeBron actually quoted this. But anyway, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this. LeBron's quote tweet in reply to that video where the announcers, with absolutely no ulterior bias or anything like that, is that a term? Said this stuff about him. And he said, you took a trip all the way to Abu Dhabi to be on my... Eat some breakfast first. Damn, bro. Anyways, Brody is a legend. Yeah, so I'll say that the last part Russ is a Hall of Famer, legend of the game, sure thing. Absolutely agree. I think it's interesting that he woke up and, like I said, chose violence. That's kind of crazy for sure. He saw this, I guess, a day late because that was yesterday. This was earlier today. What do you guys think about that? I just think it's a little bit funny. That's just how he is. So I don't really know, but I know some people will think it's defensive or uncalled for or things like that. And the replies here, as you would imagine, are pretty interesting. I'm not going to go through them, but you can imagine. All right, another report came out earlier today that I covered in another video, which I'm not sure if it's out or not yet, but it said that LeBron joined the Lakers partly because of how they handled the final seasons of Kobe's career. And, you know, LeBron says basically that's not the case. We'll read it in a second. I think that's a little bit semantics because partly could mean 10%, 5%. Like, it's something that you're aware of and you probably think just a little bit about, but it's obviously not the determining factor. But nonetheless, I think that's a very mobile word and you could definitely perceive it a few different ways. What do you think about that? I do think that the way the Lakers treat their stars is and has been a reason why LeBron wanted to come and stay in Los Angeles all this time. He's now entering, I believe, the 7th season with this team, and this is a team that he has spent largely the most amount of time with, the second most amount of time in his entire career. He has been here for a third of his career, guys, in Los Angeles, basically, and that is extremely interesting. So I do think he has wanted to stay here for a lot of different reasons, and I think the way that the Lakers treat their stars was probably a reason why initially, but I don't think it was a huge reason. He himself lays out the huge reasons why. This is a fun one because we've heard this as a talking point. If you follow Lakers coverage, you've heard this as a talking point for years, all the way back to when he came here. This was a report back then. This has been something that's not new. That's not something people haven't heard of. This has been a report for a very long time. He replied, "Cap, I came to the Lakers because I wanted to help Jeannie win championships and bring that spark back to the Lakers and see my family blossom in SoCal. Why would I make a decision on how someone else is treated? Mama always said, stay out of grown folks' business." He's got a knack for ending these replies a certain way, doesn't he? He ended with a quote here last time with the praise. He always got to end it on a positive note. I see you, my guy. All right. In all seriousness, I think everything he said is obviously true. No one's going to tell you other than him, better than him, why he came to Los Angeles. And I think for the most part, he has done those things, right? He's come here and he's done the things that he's promised to do, and he delivered a championship, got close one time, I believe, and had a team that could have pushed another one if they didn't get hurt in 21. And, you know, whatever it is, he was able to deliver a championship. And I think the family piece is a huge piece. Remember when they said LeBron came here to Los Angeles to only want to make movies? I thought that was interesting too. He's made like one movie, I think, since he's been here, and he definitely hasn't been there. But I think that the interesting thing with him and his entire family is, while you can build a brand, you can manage businesses from anywhere in the world, especially in today's day and age, it has never been less important than it is now to be in a market. Like, you know, that was the thing where they would say you need to be in Los Angeles or New York to build your brand and be in this big market, and that'll all happen. That still matters to a degree. Being in Los Angeles will just afford you with other opportunities than other locations to work with certain brands. It is what it is. That's a thing. But nowadays, it's not as driven, as hardcore. LeBron could be what he is and who he is no matter where he wanted to be. That's just the case for him. But I do think that the family piece of it is interesting. They could obviously be successful regardless of whatever ventures that they took. But I think that this puts his family in a position where they could have more optionality, and I think that's what he was looking for. So that's really cool, I think, in terms of just putting your family in a position to be successful. So I think that's the biggest part here, aside from obviously wanting to win championships and be a competitive basketball player. I think that matters a ton. Like, it probably was like, you know, 50-50 pretty much down the middle for him between wanting to be successful in basketball and then wanting his family to be successful otherwise. So I think that's cool. But yeah, I don't really know, like I said, about the partly part of it. I think that's a very mobile word. Like I said, why would I make a decision on how someone else is treated? You could, I mean, sure. Okay. I mean, that's fair. But nonetheless, what do you guys think about it? Post it down below. And like I said, subscribe if you're new. And if you want to see some more Laker coverage, because if you made it to the end, you're probably a Laker fan, there's a video on the screen right now for you.